What is up, everyone? Welcome to NFL playoff action.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? Joe, when did you upgrade the background, man? You look so professional and stuff now with the pretty picture in the background. I'm kind of impressed.
No one else is home, so I'm in the living room so I can have the game on in the background instead of in my room. So
how about that?
It's nice to see like 16th century Venice, I would assume.
Let's say that. I love that.
Just have no idea. It's actually Brooklyn, New York last week.
Des Moines, Iowa.
If that's Des Moines, Iowa, I need to travel a little bit more because I don't think I understand this country as well as I thought I did, at least the what it looks like. But I'm Keith, joined by my good friends and fellow degenerates, Kevin Tompkins and Joe the Brain Matz. We are going to break down in a minute the wild card. 6-game slate, man, like just a perfect size DFS slate. I freaking love this weekend for gambling. A lot of cool stuff with best balls. If you haven't done the FFPC or Scott Fishbowl, like there's a lot of cool best balls starting this week. Get into that. The unwind one that Rachel's doing also for a very good calls. So a lot of those, you should check those out. But real quickly before we get into the DFS, I was thinking about this today. What would be like your top 2 or 3 franchises you would want to be right now that did not make the playoffs this year?
That did not make the playoffs.
Safe to say the Bengals would have to be one of them, right? You got Joe Burrow. I know there's issues, but you got Joe Burrow. It's not all bad.
No, but you also got to find room to pay somebody. You got to make that decision. You got to pretty much overhaul the defense. You fired Lou Anarumo, so you're basically starting from scratch there.
In this scenario, am I the owner of the team or am I a fan of the team?
Am I like Jerry Jones?
You're the fan. None of us are going to be billionaires, so I don't think.
Well, because in the owner scenario, I'm all in on the Bengals because I would start paying enough money to have like a full scouting system and not just like 12 guys that I shoved into a closet and told them to find me players to draft. So
that closet being their practice facility.
Exactly. So again, I mean, what they've been able to do from the Marvin Lewis era on, and I know that era didn't involve playoff wins, but the fact that they've just been contending constantly with the bottom 5 facilities the entire time and number of people just on staff is really a testament to everyone who's worked there.
Yeah, they did that at the tail end of Carson Palmer, Andy Dalton, like now.
What made the playoffs 4 straight years with Andy Dalton. Yeah. And that one year before he got hurt, they looked like a contender. So it's like
nobody hating on the Red Rocket.
And Andy Dalton was like
Red Rifle
good.
He was solid.
He was good. He proved it again in Carolina a couple years ago, winning me some money in DFS. So I guess I whiffed with Cincinnati. Who would you say?
No,
where's my Falcons?
Top Seriously. 3, it's still Cincinnati for sure. You're right.
Where's my Falcons?
I'd love the Cardinals in there. I think the Cardinals have a pretty good setup as far as like, yeah, you probably got to try to get a little more out of Kyler, but you've got obviously Marvin Harrison. You've got the makings of a good offense. You've got, obviously James Conner is solid, but you can't rely on him forever. You got Trey Benson. You can make it work there. You've got obviously Jonathan Gannon, who's I'd still say has yet to really show what he can do. And has he shown that on the defensive side in spurts? So I do like kind of the overall and they're in the
more
West
than the Niners, Kev?
Yeah, I was going to say the Niners would definitely be on my list.
Yeah, but the Niners feel like the tail end of like the Phillies dynasty with Ryan Howard and Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins.
It could be crumbling, yeah.
Yeah, with CM, they held on to their stars for too long. And
I believe in Shanahan, though, man. Like, he won with Garoppolo. Like,
I mean, they're on this. What's the streak now? Where it's like years where they either just make the Super Bowl or is it the conference championship? They either make the conference championship or they miss the playoffs. It's like 6 straight years now or something, right?
They've had some really bad injury. I mean, some of those players are just injury prone. Now, I'll admit that, but like this year was the season from hell. God almighty, they were down to their 5th running back, I think, by the end of the year.
I I'm just worried that their window is like they're out of their.
I'm gonna play Purdy now. You got to pay him.
Debo's older.
You
Kittle's
just
older.
paid Ayuk, and now
Right.
he's
What happens
off a
with John?
major
What's
injury.
John Jennings? How long is he there for?
He just signed a 3-year deal at the
Okay, he
beginning of
extended too. Okay, well,
last free
we'll
agency.
see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they can do there.
So
I'd still put them top 3. I think probably.
I'd probably go
teams?
Cardinals, Bengals. I mean, for all their faults, I don't know, the Jaguars. Like with what they have, it's tough. Like I'm looking at teams like the Dolphins.
I'm taking that personal now that you're taking the Jaguars over my team. Like, yikes.
Because now they're set for a while. Like they've got a stud wide receiver, Brian Thomas. They've got Bigsby and ETN. They've got Trevor Lawrence. You signed him obviously to a long-term deal. You got to rework the defense, but there's like pieces there. Josh Allen Hines, however the hell you say it. But I mean, they've got pieces there. At least they're young. Like that's more than you can say about a lot of teams.
The big issue with them is just what does it take to fire Trent Baalke? Like what needs to happen?
Probably the same thing it take to fire Rich McKay at this point, Joe Matt. So
that would probably be enough to keep them off for me. The Falcons are in the conversation. I think it's if we'd seen a little bit more from Penix and like both time wise and ability wise, then I could just be all in. Then sure, absolutely, the Falcons would be on the list. I mean, the upside for the Falcons and the Jags is they're kind of in the two more open divisions where you can say, yeah, Tampa's won 4 straight, but you don't feel like, it's not like the Bears where it's like the Bears could be like, we're a head coach away, but then you have the Lions, you have the Packers, you have the Vikings. It's not like that. And then, presumably the Texans offense will improve from where it was this year, but that's a lot more wide open. Depending on who they hire, the coach, and I know that the cupboard is bare outside of a quarterback, I might just throw in the Patriots as my number 3.
That was my team.
You give me a stud
you stole my
stud quarterback.
Son of a bitch, Joe Mats. Once again, number 4 pick. I mean, like they were.
You've got pieces. Yeah.
You've got so much money.
Christian Gonzalez, they got over $100 million. I mean, like it pisses me off because man, screw the Patriots. They've won enough. I was so excited for them to go through just what most NFL franchises do after the last, 20-year stretch that they had with Brady and Belichick, and it took them, one misstep, thinking Mac Jones was a guy for like 2 years, and even firing. Mayo, I thought for sure they wouldn't fire him. And as much as I hate to see a coach get fired after 1 year, because that's not really fair, it's the right thing to do when you have a guy like Drake May. Like, you've got to get this right. And I just didn't see anything from Mayo that maybe say that's the guy that's going to get the most out of, Drake May.
Yeah, they need to figure out who's going to be undertaking that entire process, because if they don't, you're probably looking at like future Dallas Cowboy Drake May lighting it up.
Like, my nightmare.
Do you think this is Mike Vrabel, or do you think? Because I heard that supposedly they're also apparently going after Ben Johnson, or at least want to talk to him
too.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, they quote fulfilled their Rooney Rule obligations by lending mock interviews to
huge.
Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton.
Might as well just call him Token from South Park at this point. Jesus Christ.
I mean, that was Jim Caldwell for how many years? He felt like the one hire that they all wanted, the interview that they had to get through before they hired that guy they actually wanted. Unless you're the Lions who actually hired Jim Caldwell.
I like when they do like a running backs coach for a random team. You're like,
right. What? I'm surprised I didn't call
Thomas Brown. I would take that interview if I was that guy, because of
course, yeah.
At least, and then if you impress them at all, obviously you don't expect to get hired, but like maybe you become an OC one day, and then who knows what happens. But
wasn't that like Josh McCown like 2 years ago, where he was still playing and he interviewed for the Texans job?
I really think you're right. Yeah,
something like that. Of course, that whole Texans era was like a goof. So
right. Well, they pretty much did what the Patriots did, because they had. I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
The coach before D'Amico Ryans, and they ran into that one.
What was his name?
Hold on, I got to look it up now.
Yeah, right.
Because
I will say, I have heard that he very much was more of just like positive attitude figurehead guy. Where it was like,
David Culley, that's who it was.
Ted Lasso, is that who you're talking about, Joe Matz?
And then they hired
a less success. Well, I guess for season 1 they do get relegated. So I guess he was basically Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they hired
like,
Lovey,
nice
and
guy,
I completely forgot about Lovey Smith, who
he would have had 2 years.
He only had the 1 year, I think, too.
Culley was a 1-year guy.
Well, I was talking about Lovey.
Was one too, wasn't he?
Well, he was one. Yeah, he was one
immediately after. He was 1 year, and then
because he won the week 18 game.
He swung the number 1 pick to Carolina, and that seemed like the biggest win ever because they got Stroud instead of Bryce Young. And now that
as Lee Corso says,
I don't know,
not so fast, my friend, not so fast. Bryce was cooking. Man, I'm serious. That was the first obviously game. It's not like anybody's searching out watching full Carolina games, even with Bryce, on the uprise, but playing my Falcons, seeing every snap, that dude looked a lot like the guy I saw at Alabama. Like the way he was moving around, his decision making, like just, the elusiveness in the pocket where he's not like this unbelievable athlete, but even in college, you saw it where he just was really good at buying time and then making, really smart and quick decisions.
It's because he couldn't see over the offensive line.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, when you're 5'8", you kind of got to do that. So,
but yeah, there's a lot of votes still to count in Florida in this Bryce Young CJ Stroud race.
And that's why I'm telling everybody, let's pump the. I saw somebody the other day say that Jaden Daniels belongs in like the tier 1, and I'm as big of a Jaden Daniels fan as anybody. It's like we just learned this lesson with CJ Stroud. Can we at least see a few years before you either put too much pressure or not enough pressure on these guys? It evolves. I think it takes some time before we know, what they are. We thought Lamar was limited in 2019, 2020, and he had already had an MVP year. People say, well, he can't throw down the field and he can't do this. And I mean, these guys, Josh Allen was inaccurate, right, Joe? Me and you both said that he won't ever be an accurate passer. That's
year 1
not aged well.
Even into year 2, that was true. And then
he said,
year 3, suddenly he was a vastly different quarterback. And it's also not always, linear. Obviously, Josh Allen went from total chaos to somewhat controlled chaos to top 5 quarterback ever since year 3. But other guys do their ups and downs. I mean, Dak Prescott year 1, it was like, oh shit, like this is fuck as a Giants fan. And then for the next couple years, it was kind of like, he's fine, I guess. And then he's had seasons where he looked. Last year was his best season ever, and then this season it was bad for the 8 weeks that he played. So it's it's all dependent. And so always take everything with a grain of salt, unless it's you start to doubt Patrick Mahomes. Then just don't do it. You're being foolish.
Or if you're the Browns or the Jets, it's just going to be shitty.
Even their Baker, where like Baker seemed like the future for the first 2 years.
That's fair. They let him go too.
Well, it's context dependent too, because it depends on the team whether they're willing to actually put forth the time into the investment. Where you're seeing, obviously, Josh Rosen was horrifying for everybody involved, and they got out of that as quick as they could. But like, I will die on this hill, and I'm sorry, I don't think that Trey Lance has really gotten the proper. Like
100% he's not. Yeah, 100%.
He's not played enough at any level for us to really know how good he is.
And the NFL is not like this pristine sterling mark as far as evaluating quarterbacks. Most people who are in front offices, like that's why drafting quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. No team will do it, but drafting quarterback after quarterback for teams is, you're going to run into one eventually. People are very bad at evaluating quarterbacks.
I've said forever that would be what I'd do, Kev, if I was a GM. Like I would convince the owner, like, look, I know people are going to scoff and probably make fun, but literally give me 3-4 years where we're going to take a QB either in like the first, second, or third round. And, you just hope you get right one of those 3-4 years, because that's what the NFL is now. I was actually talking to Joe about this, Kev, the other night, that I think we're going to have to readjust the, so much change over year to year in the playoff teams, because this year it was only 4. It's like the least in forever, new playoff teams. And it's because the teams, these franchises with these really good QBs, it's hard for them not to make the playoffs.
Right, exactly.
And then the Eagles are Exhibit A for, again, why they're always one of the smartest teams. They have Carson Wentz, and it's all settled. We're good. Take Jalen Hurts round 2. People are like, what are you doing? And then there's all this nonsense of like, well, that shake Carson Wentz's confidence. And it's like, if that shakes your guy's confidence, he's not your guy. It's like, what did Tom Brady do when Jimmy G got drafted? He was like, fuck you. I'm going to be even better when I'm 42 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
pretty much.
So, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. You should, if there's a guy that you have a good eval on, and it's, obviously don't waste your first round pick if you're a contender. I don't like.
Right.
I kind of think that the Packers thing, I still go back and forth on because everyone's like, they're geniuses. And I'm like, they were really close to winning a Super Bowl this last couple of years. And they spent a first round pick on a guy who didn't play. And maybe long term, it's going to lead to more playoffs. Did it lead to more Super Bowls? I don't know. But yeah, you're talking about day 2 picks. 100%. If you like a guy in day 2, you should be drafting him regardless of your QB situation.
Look, the team that has been in like the most quarterback purgatory before this season, Washington, drafted Kirk Cousins like rounds after they drafted RG3.
Yeah.
So, look, I think Green Bay should have, Green Bay had Patrick Queen, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman like lined up in that draft and took.
Yeah. But that was enough. Maybe
Rodgers had enough left in the tank where you put Higgins with Devontae. That would have been
even Pittman
terrifying.
That honestly, maybe
they needed a linebacker in the worst way, and Queen was there. Queen's not exactly a CJ Mosley or anything like that, but he would have been an upgrade over the guys they had at that point. Like certainly over, who's the dude that plays the Pokemon card game that bought all those, played for the Blake something. I can't think of his name. Blake
Martinez.
Blake Martinez.
He came to the Giants.
Yeah. I could not think of his name for the life of me, but all I knew was
you made all that money with the Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
You guys lost me at Pokemon. Let's go through this slate. And I figured because there's only 6 games, it would be fun. Let's just talk each game. We can obviously touch on whoever we like for that game. Chargers, Texans. I think that the Chargers, there's a lot of value on that side. Texans, like Deontay Johnson, I'll keep saying at 3,500. I just think the fact that he played 22 snaps last week, the fact that they need offense bad. Chargers have been very good versus the run. I think he's worth a shot even in cash because, again, at 3,500, it allows you on a very difficult slate because you really want as many of these expensive receivers and expensive running backs as you can get in your lineup, and there's just not enough like slam dunks, especially at the running back position to spin down there. I do really like Herbert. I gave the stat that his last 7 with Dobbins. So I know Dobbins hasn't been great, but for whatever reason, it's a huge difference when Dobbins plays and Herbert's performances compared to when he doesn't. 5 of Herbert's top 6 passing yardage totals this season came in just the last 7 games that Dobbins played. Now, granted, they started throwing a lot more in the second half of the season. I understand that. Obviously, I like Ladd. We were talking about that Nico Collins. Chargers run a lot of zone. Nico has just shredded zone this year, but I'm really leery to play him when he's so expensive and Puka's right there, right? Or I can spend up a little more and get Jefferson. I just feel like there's guys with better matchups, but I know kind of that Joe thinks this game is a crapshoot and more than likely going to be a dogfight. Kev, what's kind of your initial thoughts on this game?
It's a rock fight.
Okay.
Like I do think that the vibes are at an all-time low for the Texans, and that even moves to Nico Collins. Like I don't feel good about this defense, the Jim Harbaugh defense that's played, I would say, ahead of their skis a bit, but like in a good way where it makes the Chargers competitive. I don't like that for Nico Collins, knowing that, okay, if you stop Nico Collins, what else do you got? You got Dalton Schultz, who doesn't threaten anybody, but is like a fine compiler. You got to worry, okay, maybe a little Deontay Johnson, but other than that, you got to worry about like Mechie But ultimately, it's the run game. It's like run game versus run game where you're hoping you get a little out of the pass from both teams. But it feels like a 15-14 kind of game where it could be really gross. It could come down to like field goals. And then we're wishing we had been grocery shopping during this game rather than watching it. But yeah, I mean, Herbert would be. I do like Herbert if you're trying to get a little different with the quarterback position, because I know if you're playing the full slate, I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about Jane Daniels and all these and Baker Mayfield. That to me is the most fun game out of all of them, and we'll talk about that. But I think Justin Herbert, and even with Josh Palmer out, I think that condenses everything down to Lad and even Quentin Johnston. Like, I don't think with Palmer out, I don't think that's a bad play.
What about Davis? We've seen him, when he's gotten opportunities when Palmer's out, and he's one of those guys, again, when you're just looking for somebody who's really cheap. I think he's 3,300 this week. It's that, number 3 receiver. He'll be on the field in 3 receiver sets, obviously. He's somebody, too, that I've considered, especially if you say it's a multi-entry event and you're like me, you think the Lad Herbert is one of the best values you're going to get, where you're getting, an alpha, receiver who's been very good zone, man, just basically all season with a quarterback who runs. And then you can double stack them, by throwing with Davis and maybe opening up enough money to where you could get a Barkley and a Puka in your lineup or something.
I got something for you. Hear me out.
Okay.
I'll flip the Darius Davis.
Okay.
DJ Chark ran the 3rd most routes of those wide receivers. I think if you're going to get,
what's his price?
3,100.
Ooh, Kevin Tompkins. Now
that's my that could be my Miles Sanders play of the week from last week.
I like that.
I don't think there was any other show that mentioned Miles fucking Sanders. And me and Keith talked. We talked about him for a good minute.
And that was only because you weren't here, Joe, because we knew that you would hate on us and talk down to us. So since you weren't here, we felt free to speak our minds.
That's right.
Look, I didn't like it either. I hate Miles Sanders.
He literally prefaced it by saying, I feel a little sick right now, but let's talk about Miles Sanders. Joe, what's kind of overall thoughts still the same on this game? You think you're worried, right, that this could end up being one that you're regretting potentially playing anybody outside of Lad or,
I think you can certainly talk yourself into Lad, especially because his price point isn't too high. Where
it's not egregious at all.
Where I probably would favor Terry McLaurin over him, but it's not like he's not. If he was in the 7,000s, then I'd be like, no, I'm out. I just feel like with the Texans, like Kev said, it's it's the low point. But it's really just the low point offensively. This offense has just become bad. But the defense is still really good. I went through yesterday and I compared, all the adjusted line yard stuff on FTN where I, put in the offensive line with an adjusted line yards for people who don't know. It's just trying to take out downfield stuff, your breakaway runs that skew yards per carry. It's going to kind of be what can you count on based on what this team is churning out week to week, down and down. And so I took the offense, took the defense, combined them, and found the average. The lowest production based on that you would expect would be the Chargers' run game. So if the Chargers aren't going to have much of a run game, then, Herbert and Ladd are great, but what else is out there? Stingley probably isn't going to be on Ladd unless Ladd's on the outside. So that's good for Ladd. So again, Ladd's a reasonable play.
Yeah.
But that just makes me not believe in everything else. Honestly, after, Herbert's low enough where maybe you could talk me into him, but I really only like Ladd. You could maybe talk me into just saying, fuck it. This is a Stone smart game. I'm just going to save my money. And there's just a random chance that he has a game because the Texans defense, that is kind of where you want to attack them, is over the middle.
Yeah, but what's his price?
I mean, his price is what? $2,900.
Yeah, I would rather spend $300 more and give me, or $400 more, whatever it is, and give me likely.
I think so too, to get likely. But Yeah, like if you're desperate and you need that someone under 3,000 to make the rest of your lineup fit, I think Stone Smart kind of makes sense. And then the Texans. I mean, there's a mixed argument because he could end up with a decent number of receptions against this Chargers defense. That, if I'm remembering right, when we looked yesterday, it was like the most targets to opposing running backs.
Yep.
Definitely bottom.
I mean, they're pretty good versus them, but teams throw a lot.
Right. You can get the PPR. He's probably not going to get like 65 yards receiving. Yep. But he might have 7 catches for 38 yards, which feels right for this Texans offense right now.
Will Disley is off the injury report too, by the way. Just
okay. And then Nico, it's like you said, where it's like, I think it's a reasonable play. I think he's awesome, and there's a chance that he can take advantage of this defense, which is a defense that is trending in the wrong direction. Where they're not terrible now, but this is one of the best defenses in the league for the first 10 weeks. They've had a couple injuries on the back end, and they have not been as good down the stretch. But yeah, it's like, would I rather have Nico in the rock fight game or Puka in the fireworks game? It's like, well, I'd rather have Puka. So
right. But what about, I mean, they've really struggled down the stretch with quarterbacks that can move around. I mean, Will Levis, 5 weeks ago, 18-24 for 278, 2 touchdowns, ran for 10 yards. Mahomes, 28-41, 260, touchdown, 33 yards and touchdown. Obviously, Lamar had the monster game.
Yeah.
I mean, even last week, Levis 9-17 for $175 and a touchdown. I do think Herbert with his legs is going to make plays because the Texans, they give up rushing yards to QBs. He's been doing, again, that a lot for whatever reason. It's such a big difference when Dobbins is back there for him. Like his rushing yards, almost all of his top rushing games have came when Dobbins has played with him. And he's used his legs more and more because we know he had, the ankle or whatever at the beginning of the year, and it took him a while to get going. I believe in Herbert. He's only had 3 interceptions all season. I think it's criminal that he's 6K because if you really look at it, his last 7 with Dobbins, he's averaging 24 points per game. 3X if you're doing cash, like what I prefer to, that's 18 points. He's been killing that. He's been, doing 4X to that for his last 7 with Dobbins.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can do with this game is pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's another angle you could kind of take with it.
But would you not, if you're going to do that, just do a Sunday slate or, do a Saturday slate and then do a Sunday slate? Because why, to me, you know what I mean?
Well, I like the idea that other people will put people from this game in their lineups.
Right. But then if you're wrong and you whiff, you're in trouble is my point. So if you're saying stay away from a game, I would rather just skip that part of the slate. Because you can also, I believe, do a 4-game slate from Saturday night to Sunday evening.
Really?
On DK, yeah.
And then you're also removing Steelers, Ravens as well, which that's I mean, you're talking about getting rid of Lamar.
I'm saying that you can actually do Steelers, Ravens into the 3 Sunday games. It's a 4-game slate where you can
Saturday morning and Monday games are gone.
So you can play a 5-game slate then?
It's a 4-game. I'm saying it's literally just a Saturday night and the 3 Sunday. And the only reason I know this is because I looked at all the different combinations on DraftKings. For whatever reason, they will not do 5-game slates. I don't understand why.
I'm just
like, they won't.
Exists?
It's crazy because you literally can't do, you can, I believe, also do Sunday to Monday, 4 games, but you cannot do, for whatever reason, the Saturday, Sunday. They don't offer that. So I don't understand it, at least where you get all the games. All right. The next game. Can we all agree the Steelers is the offense that we all don't want? Really, is there any Steeler that you're willing to say, yeah, I feel good about this guy? Pickens has got a great matchup, but I don't.
He does, but I don't believe in him at all. At least right now. Obviously, next year maybe there's a reset. Maybe he's back to who he was kind of earlier in the season. Especially once Russ came in, we all got excited, and then
Russ has looked slow though the last couple of weeks too.
Right, and I feel like this is like the game. Like, just to go on Total Talk Radio narrative, this is the game that's going to decide what the Steelers do with Russell Wilson next year.
That might be true.
Or God forbid they upset the Ravens. I told Joe, I do not want to hear what people are saying about Lamar Jackson if they lose this game to the Steelers, which, again, of all the outcomes, I think that would be the one that would shock me the most is if the Ravens, because I think the Ravens are arguably the best and most complete team in the NFL right now, and Pittsburgh has really you know, kind of nosedive after that peak of what were they? They were 10-2 or 9-2 or 3 or something, and I think they lost 4 in a row. At some
Yeah, they
point?
lost 4 in a row to end, so I think 10-3, right? Because then they finished 10-7.
So
Pittsburgh feels like a team from the 70s playing a team in our, you know,
it's so true.
like Mike Webster should still be the center of the Steelers.
Right, it should be at least.
They're going fullback dive.
Franco Harrison, and Matt Suey. Or I forget who it is, but yeah,
what about Trevor Warren, Kevin? I mean, that's the one guy that I was like, maybe if they get down again, he screwed us last week. I get it. I don't know why Najee Harris is all of a sudden catching passes. Like I didn't,
because it's Arthur Smith.
That's true.
That's why.
Actually, you're right. No, that's very fair.
Najee is Arthur Smith's wet dream. Like
I fell for it again.
Like if you looked in in Arthur Smith's sketchbook, like on the Titanic. It's a drawing of Najee Harris.
Riding a unicorn?
I mean, Najee Harris is just, what if you drafted Tyler Algier in the first round? That's what Najee Harris is.
I think he's more like Cordell Patterson than he is Algier, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe. Except Najee Harris didn't play linebacker at a Mormon university. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But I don't know his backstory. But yeah, that's just the vibes. Like I just talked to the Texans have bad vibes. The Steelers are almost equal. Like, I can make a case for Pat Freiermuth, and that's about it.
Yeah,
because you know we talked about on the Tuesday show about the tight ends not being available in the playoff contest. Mm-hmm. The top like 6 or 7 aren't available.
Yep.
And so it makes the pickings even more slim,
especially this week. Like at least you get Kelsey next week. Like right now, it's like good luck. Like it's a bunch of guys that they could have a good game. Freiermuth and Ertz, like, those are top 10 tight ends, but I don't feel. You know, like, oh, yeah, I can fire up.
Like, Freiermuth is 4,400, and then you're literally on,
you
know.
He's, the second most expensive?
Yeah.
Well, that's for this game, but.
Right. No.
Okay,
he's the second most expensive.
Andrews is the most expensive, which is just wild.
I mean, there's 2 ways this game plays out to me, and it's either it's a rock fight, in which case the Steelers are in it. I mean, that's how they won that first matchup with Baltimore, or it's Baltimore kicking their ass. And in neither one do I think the Steelers, they top out at like 20 points.
I said last night,
that's
Kevin,
optimistic. Like, yeah,
don't you think that, like, if you're Lamar and the Ravens, and this is why I think maybe I'm sleeping on Lamar this week, because I've already said I love the tight ends. Like Likely Andrews, I think are just unbelievable values. Pittsburgh across the board, receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns to opposing tight ends.
Feels good.
No Flowers. You would think that means they're even more involved. There's a stat about Andrews' yards per route run versus blitz. Likely had 5 double-digit games. 2 of them came versus Pittsburgh. But I could see the Ravens like really pouring it on the Steelers, because what's a better way to get ready to go play the Bills and the Chiefs than your bitter rival, the team that has given Lamar more trouble than any team in the NFL, and he just goes out there and absolutely cooks them without his number 1 wide receiver. Do you think that there's a chance that there's a little bit of that potentially, even if they get up early?
Yeah, I think there could be. And then look at
possibility for sure.
Well, when you're looking at DFS, like even the bad offenses, like remember the Steelers playoff game against the Browns where they were like cooked at 35-10 at halftime, and then
where the whole Browns coaching staff had like COVID.
Yeah,
it's like doesn't matter.
I'm not saying Russell Wilson's going to throw the ball 68 times like Ben did in that game, but in an instance where if a team just comes out and throttles, the Ravens don't give a shit. They're up 42-7.
Garbage points count just as much as any other ones, don't they?
They sure do. Like, that's where, if that's what you're predicting in a playoff game, like in Baltimore, I think that's perfectly feasible. Not saying that, you're pinning your hopes on it, but that's where I could see a player like Freiermuth or even George Pickens go off in that. I don't think that happens in a game where it's competitive both ways.
Right.
I think that specific scenario where it's who gives a shit or getting tee times at Doral,
So, yeah, it's really, if you're picking Pittsburgh players, you're rooting for Pittsburgh to get their ass kicked.
Right.
Yes, pretty much.
And you could stack like 4 or 5 players from this game, including Lamar, and have enough money to play like Puka, Barkley, like you could really load up because if you played, say, Freiermuth and I don't know, Austin in one of those situations, then Lamar with the 2 tight ends or Lamar with Bateman, that's going to leave you, a good bit of salary to kind of mess around. Again, I can't get to Lamar hardly in any lineups this week, and we'll get to Jaden Daniels. It's just Jaden Daniels at 7,500. I'm having a hard time not clicking him in cash lineups, in MME lineups, like you name it. Dude's been on the unbelievable heater of all heaters. What's your guys' favorite place from the Ravens side? I know obviously we don't love the Steelers.
Bateman's the best price, like points per dollar.
Yeah,
like Bateman feels the best. Like Andrews, it's you're really just banking on touchdowns, and he's been the guy
7 in a row.
He's giving you touchdowns. Insane, like if
man.
you
I didn't know that until last week. Holy cow!
He led all tight ends in touchdowns this year. So
and started horribly. Remember, I said he was washed. I think
y'all did.
I watched. I said he's done.
No, I remember.
Yeah, he's gonna make a nice tight end too for the Eagles. The next couple of years. But no, I think it's Bateman is the best points per dollar play of anybody.
You see the likely play though, potentially with just Flowers being out, like he's sometimes lined up as a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's fair. I think. I mean, if you're going to go deeper into this game, I don't know if I'm in the business and it's 6-game slate of like really getting into the dart throw territory, but like if I'm going to make one, Tylan Wallace would be the guy for me.
Because he out-snapped Aguilar last week, right?
He has been.
Oh, he has been. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that worries me about Bateman is just, if he gets open, who's to say Joey Porter doesn't just tackle him 2 seconds before the ball.
He said that he wants to establish that you get like half the points for pass interference calls. So if it's a 40-yard pass interference, you basically get 20 yards worth of points.
That's what I think.
I'm all for it.
But if we're going deep shots on this game, so besides likely, because obviously, I think there's play there. Nose Flowers, if they're trying to find someone to recreate, they like just get the ball in his hands. And have something explosive happen. And obviously we're not excluding Lamar and Henry because, of course.
I think I know
Mitchell's back. He has 15 carries, hasn't done a lot yet. But this was a guy who was Mr. Explosive Play when he was on the field last season.
Is there any chance that's Justice Hill? Or is it just, you know what I'm saying? Like the same case you're making for keeping
How much nitrous you got to put in Justice Hill to get that?
That's fair.
Justice Hill is no spring chicken. Like he's creeping on 30. I think he's like 28 or 29. Feels like he's been in the league
since Hill's the gets all the receptions guy to me. Where
he's like the James Whitey guy.
Oh, so you're saying would Mitchell be rush is not? I thought you meant through the passing games. You're saying
just like you're trying to run a few plays just to get him in space.
Yeah.
And that could be a run or a pass. It could be
get him a screen pass, get him a couple off tackle things. Like
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So obviously he's only been back a few weeks, so maybe it's not all the way back yet. But that's who he was when he was on the field last season. And then honestly, he might have been the difference between them winning the Super Bowl or not. Because you put that guy in the field in that game where they got so close and they just couldn't quite score.
Completely agree.
That might have been it. So, that's only a large field play, but
no, I'm with you. But I mean, again, I do think this is the week to, me, I usually stick to cash games. I really do like multi-entry events. I don't like the 150, but there's a lot of them with like 20, 75.
Yes, it's a little more reasonable.
And with a 6-game slate, like that's kind of the perfect size to, enough differentiation to where you don't feel like you're copying, and everybody's going to have the same, guys are 50, 60% owned, but you can still get some. All right, the game that interests me the most, Broncos-Bills. I do think this Broncos team is good. It just sucks that the Broncos blitz all the time, and Josh Allen has literally been fucking Superman versus the blitz this year. They scored 30-plus points 7 times at home. In their 8 home games. That's pretty good. They scored 99 points in their last 4 home playoff games. I just think Buffalo rolls. The issue is, like, Allen, the only guys I would feel comfortable playing with are running backs. Like James Cook,
Right.
Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, Johnson and Davis for the pass catching, James Cook for the rushing. I really like, if you're going to play Allen, running it back with like Devon Vele, Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton on the other side, because Denver gets down. They're just forced to chuck, basically.
Yeah, they're not playable, like, outside of, like, Allen. Like, it's very hard to find a play.
Right?
Like, other than, like, Cook and, like, Sutton and maybe Shakir in there, it's really hard to find because they are so spread out. We talk about condensed offenses all the time. That these two teams in particular are like the polar opposites of condensed. They use so many players and personnel, and they spread the ball around. I mean, usually you're getting production out of Sutton, so that's at least something you can kind of bank on.
Pele versus a zone-heavy team is actually, I think, pretty safe. Like, especially if they're down in that script. I mean, again, they got to be getting, like, the more competitive the game is, the less good I feel about that
same
play.
As the Ravens,
right?
Steelers, but with more points. Across the board.
I didn't realize Marvin Mims' target rate actually versus zone this year. Now, granted, he's not running nearly as many routes, but he's actually got a higher target rate than Cortland Sutton and Vele versus zone.
Are we doing Marvin Mims? Is this what we're doing?
And MME? I definitely will. Like multi-entries for sure. Until that clock gets busted, man. He's just scoring touchdowns left and right at this point. So.
He is the Nick. I'm sorry, he's the Nick Westbrook-Akine of Denver. Like,
how dare you?
He hasn't run 50% of routes the entire season. I just can't make that click. The last games
guy I saw to get 8 targets on 18 routes was Janu Smith right before he went absolutely nuclear.
That was like Chigakonkwo like 2 years ago too. But yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean that. Trust me, John. I mean, Spider-Man meme on Johnny Smith and Chigakonkwo, but yeah, like the only 2 games that he's had above 5 targets were the last 2 weeks, and he still hasn't. Like, Sean Payton has something out on the guy, even though he scored 4 touchdowns. Like, he'll just refuse to give that.
He scored 2 touchdowns. He gave him 18 routes. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, it's because they use the Lil Jordan Humphreys and the Troy Franklin
and 5 fucking running backs
and 4 fucking tight ends, Lucas Kroll and Nate Atkins and Michael Burton and
can't stand Sean Payton, man.
Maybe they'll activate Tyler Beatty. I don't know. Who knows? But like, that's the thing with all these other guys is that Marvin Mims doesn't run a lot of routes. It's because it's like the Ravens problem,
right? Yeah,
where they use Patrick Ricard, they use Charlie Kohler, they use all of these personnel groups to where you just got to fight to get on the field, much less target.
That's what Mark Andrews did earlier this season, and why we were all like he's washed was because he just like Charlie Kohler was catching touchdowns, likely everybody but him.
That's why the Ravens wide receiver 2 has been such a wasteland, because outside of like the one guy there, you can't pin your hopes on anybody. And I think that's the corollary that you can play off of the Broncos, where, Marvin Mims has scored 4 touchdowns and he's been, has had the best 2-game stretch of his career. But when you look really into it, like, I can't imagine a world where this, where this dude all of a sudden ends up getting 80% of the routes in a playoff game.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
The other thing too is the Buffalo defense's whole deal is, we're going to just keep stuff in front of us. You're going to have to dink and dunk down the field, and we trust that our pass rush will eventually get to you, force you in a 3rd and long, and you'll punt. And it just, Marvin Mims, we have because the lack of playing time, we're always banking on the big score for the most part. So
Joe, what you just said though, Javonte Williams, not to make you sick, but 5,100, he had a lot of those Rashad White type games here recently. That's what I'm saying is like that Rashad White type game where he scores 15, 20 points and he has 3 carries, but he catches, say 6 balls for 40 yards and a touchdown.
How many points out of Javonte? 20?
Yeah.
Is that what we're
15, 20.
He gets 6 receptions, how many scores a touchdown and carves together 80 yards from everything.
I'm just seeing how many games I had to combine to get 20 fantasy points out of Javonte in the last.
He really has, though, had several games where it's like Rashad White, where it's just literally just pass catching. He scored like 15, 20 points.
Yeah, that's fair. He had a game 7 to 29.
We're banking on the Bills blowing him out.
I don't like any of the Broncos. I'm just saying that, especially if they're down, and hearing what you're saying that the Bills' motto is we're not going to give up anything over the top. I'm going, it really could be that Javonte catches like 5 to 7 passes in this game, which
I'm sorry to be the
lower price guy is what you need. You need somebody you can play.
I'm sorry to be the coldest water on this game, I swear. But yeah, it's hard for me to get on. I mean, and that's the thing with Broncos and both teams. It's hard.
Do you think they have a chance, Kev, at all?
Broncos? I do. Yeah.
Do? Okay.
Because
I have this gut feeling the Bills might lose, and I keep going, that's insane, Keith. But I think this Broncos team is like legit frisky.
Yeah, defense travels. Like that's very fair to assume. You got, with Patrick Surtain, all pro first team corner, going up against whoever the hell the Bills throw out there. But,
any chance that Peyton doesn't blitz as much, knowing how good Allen's been at, like, they're one, I think, was like the second highest blitz rate in the league. Any chance they try to trick Allen and be like, we're not going to do that this game. We're going to do the opposite of what we've done all year.
I don't even know if it matters what you throw up against Josh Allen. Like, honestly,
very fair.
They just seem like they're just a defense that just seems designed. Like the Bills seem perfectly designed to beat this defense because, like you said, they won a blitz. Josh Allen's great against the blitz. They have the best corner in football. They're facing a team that doesn't have a number one wide receiver
on the outside.
It could happen. I definitely like their again. I said this yesterday with you. I know Pittsburgh beat Baltimore. It's a division game. I would be more surprised if Pittsburgh won that game than Denver. But those are the two games where, and the lines reflect it, where it would be a pretty big surprise.
Right.
Yeah. I'm surprised that line is at 48, by the way, on that game. Like,
I agree.
I am too.
There's only
when I saw that,
I really feel good about. So
yeah, they're coming up.
If you had to play Ty Johnson or Ray Davis, who would you rather play? Ty's cheaper. Davis, I think, is 4,700. Johnson's 42. And again, Broncos, another team where that is where you can attack them. I mean, obviously on the ground, but also they've really given up receptions and receiving yards to running backs. And we've seen, those a couple of games where that's what Brady's schemed up, right? There's a lot of stuff to Ty Johnson, especially if they're blitzing. That would make sense, right?
Yeah. Ty Johnson has ran routes on at least 40% the last 4 weeks of the season.
Wow. I did not know it was that high.
Yeah.
That's significant.
So that's the thing is he's much more involved. And it's, and I talked about this when Ty Johnson had that massive blow-up game against Detroit. Well, the 414 yards.
Right, yeah.
Where it takes a certain kind of game script to get like a real Ty Johnson, like where he's doing something of note for fantasy purposes or for obviously DFS purposes. Like, I think he's involved enough where you can make a play and not get laughed out of the room. Like, I think that's fine. I would certainly take him over Ray Davis. Like, I think James Cook has to get hurt for Ray Davis to be like an actual real thing. And obviously we're not banking on that.
Right. So the Green Bay Philly game, this is my game, like your guys, Texans, Chargers like game. I just like outside of Barkley, I can't trust anybody. I wanted to trust Goddard, and then Joe threw fucking cold water all over it because of the amount of zone that they run, right? And his target rate, it plummets, right, Joe? Wasn't that what you were telling me? Zone versus man.
Yeah, let me pull it up right now where let's see here.
And I mean, even Barkley, it's not a great matchup. Like looking at the Packers actually have been better on the ground where they really get beat by running backs, at least for fantasy, is in pass catching. And Barkley, ironically, had, I think, like 30 yards and a passing touchdown in the first game. I just, like Hurts coming back off of a concussion. I could just see the Eagles just being like, Saquon, we gave you that week off. We need you to tote the rock 30, 35 times this week, between rush attempts and, passes to them. And then on the Packers, I just like outside of Jacobs, which again, he's so expensive. I don't feel good, like playing him. Mm-hmm. I can't trust any of your damn pass catchers, Kev, because every time, whoever I pick, it's going to be somebody else that does something.
How we forget the leader in targets for the Green Bay Packers in 2024, Dontavian Wicks. Literally led the team in targets this season.
Wow. If you If you told us that week 1, I would have been surprised. I'd be like, yeah, sure, he'll lead the team in targets.
I have to look
now. I'm like, what?
I have to look through my tweets, but I swear I either said that on a show or tweeted it, and I gotta find it because
what happened to Jaden Reed? Because he came out gangbusters. Like
they don't use him.
They just don't use him. That's what it is. It's just literally usage.
They don't pass enough, and they don't use him.
Yeah, they don't pass enough.
He looked so good earlier this year. Where I was like, oh man, this guy could be like mini Debo. Was like
so that Goddard number is 4th largest difference in target rate when facing man compared to zone.
Yeah,
man being the good one, zone being the bad one.
Right.
So even though Green Bay, the way you want to attack them is over the middle of the field,
which that's not really what Hurts does anyway, right?
But what was that?
That's not really what Hurts does anyway, right?
No, that's his weakest part of his game is throwing over the middle of the field.
But he'll still do that. He's going with Devonta Smith. Like you'll do that.
That's the one guy, man. Because then he like 57. He feels underpriced this week. I just don't know. Philly's defense has been so good. Like, how confident are you, Kev, that Green Bay scores points?
I mean, I don't want to like completely, alienate myself from my fellow Packer fans, but I honestly think this game's going to be a laugher. Like, I can't see Green Bay scoring more than like 10 points. And that's tough. And I think that's going to be like a Jacobs touchdown or like a random, like Emmanuel Wilson touchdown. Right. I do think that in Philly, now they're full strength.
Defense
Green Bay has
good second half.
Green Bay has lived and died by Josh Jacobs since their bye week, since their week 10 bye week. They have been so utterly dependent on Josh Jacobs that it feels like you're pulling teeth just to move the ball in chunks. And then when you do get behind, like we saw against the Lions, when we saw against the Vikings, like Jordan Love was almost like he didn't know what to do. They were still running the ball in the 4th quarter down 17 points against the Vikings. Remember we talked about that, Keith, where we're like, what the hell is LaFleur?
What are they doing? I wanted to murder them.
Like they love the run so much that they don't know when to give it up. Like, I think I said this is like Arthur Smith would give anything to coach this offense the way they've been like running it with LaFleur. But like, I feel like Jacobs is like the only, and I do think Dontavian Wicks is a really good play. Like, if you're going to play,
what's his price?
Opportunity is there.
30,
without Watson, 4,500.
4,500.
And you're talking about there's like 2 consistent, at least in the interim, targeters on this team. Romeo Doubs, who I don't think is even a bad play either. We saw what he did in the playoffs last season. I was going to say,
last year, I forgot he went nuclear, didn't he, in those 2 playoff games?
He did. And then Dontavian Wicks, who I think is the other like legitimate target earner on this team. Jaden Reed, I don't know if he like fell out of favor or what. Like, I honestly, because he's a slot guy, he doesn't get on the field enough in 2 wide receiver sets. And why would they put him on there, I guess? But with Watson out, like, I
hate that for y'all too, because Watson, man, has been just such a burn, and he just gives your offense a whole nother level because he can take the top off, and he's that big, almost like a J-Mo guy, right, for the Packers, where big play, anytime. And I hope he can, this is the last of his injuries, and it's not a J.K. Dobbins situation where it seems like every time he gets going, he gets hurt, because he was having a great year when he was on the field.
Right, and that's the thing with him is he split time with Wicks. So he didn't even like really get a full compliment either. Like they had been like cycling between Wicks and Watson for that second spot. And they give like 85 to 90% of routes to Dobbs, like automatic. If he's in the lineup, that's what he's getting. So that makes it tough for like, if they're going to attack downfield, because you're already subbing out Watson for Wicks and the other way around. Now without Watson, I do think, it's not like Jaden Reed can't, win deep either. I know he's like 5'11", but he can do it too. Like that's what they were doing.
I saw him do it earlier this year for sure. Yeah.
Right.
So do you like then, if you think the game's going to go that way, do you like playing like, say, Barkley and running it back with, say, a Wicks and, a Dobbs, or a Wicks and, maybe Kraft or somebody? Like, because again, if you think that that's going to happen, you got to assume Barkley's going to have a big game, and that's going to give a lot of opportunity for some lower price pass catchers. Like, and I think that's going to be different and unique too, which is something that obviously will help in a small slate like this if you're right.
Yeah, like a lot of people are just going to play Barkley and then maybe bring it back, but probably not. I mean, you could do it with like Kraft. Like that's totally fine because tight end is such a wasteland where everybody's like packed together.
Right.
That's going to make. I think that's good. I think the ownership is going to be divided pretty evenly between a lot of those guys, between the Krafts and the Andrews. If you're playing the full 6-game slate, I think that's where like Kraft is going to be the highest owned Packers pass catcher. Just because it doesn't feel great to play Dobbs, if this game is going to go that way, or even like Wicks, who I think is a really good pivot off of Dobbs as far as like, kind of just going off of what people are going to do. But yeah, I think I would probably do Saquon and then like bring it back with like a Kraft or like one of those pivot options.
Good news is, guys, I know we haven't felt great about a lot of these games. I feel real good about the Sunday night game, and I don't know about you guys. I feel pretty good about the Monday night too, but the Sunday night game, I was worried when I went on the Inside Drive on ESPN Northwest Florida because I do that Wednesday, and that's like my early take, and I give an official lineup. Next thing you know, Joe, I realized I had 5 guys from this game, and I'm going, Keith, did you overload? And I'm like, no, I think I'm right on the money. Daniels again, 7,500 to me is the lock of all lock. I did not realize how electric this dude was, like down the stretch. First of all, the fact that you get 7.35 points per game with his legs, like that's for the season. He averaged almost 8 points a game. So you start with basically 8 points. And then his last 5 full games, 382 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. And then, oh, by the way, throw in 15 freaking passing touchdowns. In those games, he scored 18 touchdowns and rushed for 382 yards in just the last 5. And we've seen Tampa's defense. It ain't that. Like, it's just not. Spencer Rattler was moving the ball on them last week. And you've taught me more into McLaurin, obviously, if you want to play, like if you're like me and you're playing Daniels. I just love that all the options that you can get with Daniels that are cheap, like Eckler, 4,800, I think is the better back option. Zacchaeus saw 17 targets the last 2 games, full games that he played with Daniels. And then Zach Ertz has become probably my most clicked guy in lineups with Daniels, with the Bucs giving up, what'd you say, it was like 67 yards per game, Joe. It's one of the only Kansas City gives up more, not just in the playoffs, Joe. I looked, that's in the entire NFL. Those are the 2 worst teams versus tight ends. And then on the other side, I can't have enough of Bucky and McMillan. I think they're the 2 best values on the board. Washington is not a good run defense. They haven't been all season. Bucky Irving is freaking electric. 33% of his carries on the season have came in the last 4 games. That's the kind of volume he's getting now at this level. And then McMillan, you got to remember, Mike Evans is going to have his arch nemesis across from him. And I just think that means that Baker's going to go somewhere else. And man, why would you not go to a guy who scored 7 fucking touchdowns his last 5 games? Kev, do you know, has any other rookie done that? Me and Joe are trying to remember if any rookies caught 7 touchdowns in a 5-game span.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like the only
Randy Moss, OBJ is the only 2 we could even think maybe.
The only the first name that pops up to my mind is Marcus Colston. But
that's a good call. He did have a monster year, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up right now, but I can't think of like any rookie wide receiver to do that. That's rarefied air.
Yep. Especially at the end of the year when they were fighting for a playoff spot too. So it's not like these were meaningless games. These were, like must win for the Bucs. I'm so impressed, especially because it started so bad for him to where people were saying, bust. And then in the season, well, man, this dude may be, another name that you got to throw into that hat of, wow, how good is this wide receiver class?
7 touchdowns in his first 8 games Marcus Colston had to start his career.
Wow.
To start his career. That 2006, that's the only time I've ever gone undefeated in fantasy.
Did he, though, did he do 7 and 5, though? Because I just seriously want to know if any rookie's ever done that. Like, I know he had, what'd you say, 8 in the first 7. Did he have 7 to over 5?
No, that's
sick, man. Sick. And he's caught one in every game. He's just had 2 games with 2. I couldn't believe it. And luckily we jumped on that, on this show the last, I think 3 weeks. I think it only took us 2 weeks of McMillan going out. And we were like, yeah, sign us up for that. Are you guys all in on this game too?
Like, real quick, confirmed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Confirmed. OBJ, the last 4 games of his rookie season, he scored 7 touchdowns.
He's in 4 games.
Yeah, and he had at least 130 yards and 8 receptions in all 4 games.
Did he go 2-2-2-1 or what did he do?
1-3-2-1.
What a beast! He was so good.
Oh, that 4-week stretch, he had 43 receptions for 600 yards and 7 touchdowns.
How excited were you, Joe Matz? How old were you then? You're probably in your 20s, right? Like that was like peak Joe Matz football fandom.
Dude, we were back. It was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then the banana boat or whatever happened. What was it?
Banana
boat. What was the thing they did after the play?
I blocked it out of my mind.
They got a bye.
I can remember the picture vividly. I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, all downhill from there.
So, yeah, sorry to burst your bubble on that because they did have to go play Green Bay and got whitewashed.
Oh, it was close for a bit, and then the
is that the one that Coughlin's face looked like it was going to explode? It was so red. Is that the same one, or am I getting it mixed up? Was that game in New York?
No, that game was in Green Bay.
Yeah, that was the game where I really was worried for Coughlin's healthy.
Bay,
he looks so freaking red.
By the way, Puka Nacua 7 in 4 games.
Wow.
Oh,
how did I forget that? That was last year.
Actually, sorry. Even wait, no, I lied. Sorry, I was looking at rushing attempts. I'm sorry, I saw the 2-1-2-2-2 and
I was like,
my eyes got
smokes.
I
bug-eyed.
was
No,
like, whoa.
he only had 6 touchdowns last year, but yeah,
caught 5,000 passes though, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I'm gonna that's gonna be what am I doing tonight? I'm gonna have
Randy Moss did it in 3 games.
Did he really? Yeah, I know he had the 3 in the Thanksgiving game.
So he had 3 in the Thanksgiving. He had 3 the following week against Chicago. And so you can either use the game against Green Bay prior to Thanksgiving or the game against Baltimore after the Chicago game. Either way, he gets to 7.
And that was his rookie year was when the Falcons beat them in the NFC Championship, right?
Yes, it was.
I still
he
can't
scored
believe
10 touchdowns in the last 11 touchdowns in the last 7 games of that season.
Still can't believe we beat that Minnesota team.
Yeah, Randy Moss.
You guys loaded up though on this game? Is it all? I mean,
100%.
you feel the same way? Just put as many Bucks Commanders as you can. I'm worried. I'm sleeping on Baker with his rushing.
I was going to say you're all in on Daniels. My only question is if I'd rather have Baker. The last 5 weeks, an average of 289 yards and over 3 touchdowns per game. Like
he's been rushing though
5
too,
straight
right?
weeks over 22. Yeah, 2 of the last 3 games they've played, he's gone over 40 yards rushing.
Yeah, and he did that a bunch early in the year too. Like he's added a whole nother level to his game that I didn't see since basically
he has
college.
10 games this year where he's gotten at least 20 yards. So at least 2 points you can add in there.
Shit's huge, man. Like 2 free points. Sign me up.
He threw 41 touchdowns this season, which sounds insane, but.
And the Kirk Cousins had the same amount of interceptions that Baker made. He did playing less games and a lot less touchdowns.
Whew.
Like this game is going to be the most stacked game. You know, if you're just going to play multiple pieces, like this is where a lot of like you can pivot like off of this game to get leverage on almost everybody else. Like if you, I mean, I don't think it's smart to
goes the other way.
Right. I don't think it's smart to fade this game. Like I think you could get away with playing one off or even like a single correlation. Like you could play like Bucky Irving and McLaurin or Bucky.
Is that why though
Irving
you don't like? Do you think it makes sense for me to play Daniels and not play McLaurin? Because I think that everybody that's playing Daniels is gonna play McLaurin, and I do like those other guys of like Eckler as a key. Like I'm not gonna go crazy with him. It's probably just gonna be like 1 or 2, but I think that's what.
Yeah, he's the comfy click. Like he is like he's like the old pair of jeans or the old pair of shoes that just feels good
too, man.
That it feels so good to click Daniels and then all right, I got McLaurin. I don't have to worry about it. I had no cares in the world when I had McLaurin and Jane Daniels, but I think that's where you really are, putting yourself in a bad spot where you could play a Zach Ertz and then still fit in a lot of these. Like McLaurin, like 6,500 is not a bad price for McLaurin, but looking at like McMillan just on the other side at 5,200,
right.
And then all these other wide receivers.
Wouldn't you rather spend 500 more on Bucky Irving? I know I would. I'd rather have Bucky at 7K than McLaurin at 6,500.
Yeah,
Bucky's might be my favorite play of the entire week.
I think I agree.
I think he's going to be successful running the ball. I think he's going to do his normal business catching the ball. I think this is the shootout game. I mean, we talked about how I, screwed you up week 1 by talking you out of Daniels because he was facing a Todd Bowles defense.
Still not over it.
It's like he put up big numbers and they lost that game. What was it? Like 37-20?
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Bucks smoked them. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is a shootout. And, yeah, the beautiful thing, of course, about Bucky is if they're up, he can pound them into the dirt. If they're down, he and Rashad will feast on reception. So, yeah, I am all in on Bucky. I think he's going to be in every lineup I make.
Any interest in Otten? Because he's the one guy. He's coming back. He hasn't played in a while. I think he probably will be low owned because of that. He's the one guy. Because, again, Evans could have a monster game. Don't get me wrong. But just history has shown Lattimore. I looked it up. 13 games, 2.6 receptions, 42 yards is what he averages over those 13 games. That is not the Mike Evans we know and love.
I like the Ertz Hawkinson for $100 or $200 more.
That's
I like
fair.
those matchups so much more, especially.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
I mean, Otten has a scarlet letter, so you could totally play like he's not going to be owned because he's not. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, it just even without that, it does not feel anywhere as comfortable. But as I say that, and he goes 8 for 86 and a touchdown.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
I mean, to be
It's
honest,
we're like, no way, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like the Jonah Hill, like, yeah, fuck me, right?
Any other guys you just really, want to, say anything on for this game, or just somebody that we have not mentioned you want to play? But I mean, overall, I think we all agree that like load up. Don't be bashful in this game.
Yeah, like
100%.
Eckler. I mean, Eckler.
Yeah, we have
it.
400 best deal by far, best value this week. I think by far, even more than McMillan. I feel like seriously.
I mean, I think you brought up an interesting idea where it's like the McMillan combo makes so much sense, but it's also like you can just pepper in, even if you don't go with McMillan or even if you don't go with Daniels, I would still consider peppering in these lower price guys, the Eckler, Ertz, Zacchaeus, because
you play it like a showdown slate.
Yeah,
honestly, because you can just eliminate the top end, and then you still got enough guys to where you could fill out your lineup and then jam in the high price best plays in other games. Like you could jam in Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz.
That official lineup I said from Wednesday: Daniels, Bucky, Eckler, Puka, Ladd, Zacchaeus, Likely, McMillan, Chargers D. And you can go a lot cheaper at defense and then spend up from Ladd to
Chargers D in there.
Yeah, you could spend up I really like Ladd, but I mean you could easily then get to one of those guys in the 7K range. You go down and play the Broncos or somebody, which again, defense, do what you gotta do. What we were talking about with Houston, it would not surprise me if they have issues moving the ball.
Yeah. Also, Bucky, the highest projected ownership across all the
as
players.
It should
Damn it.
40%.
So see. That's making me think Barkley you should probably try to find a way to get Barkley and Bucky into your lineup. And then the question is what cheap guys do I have to play to do that? Because those two guys and Puka to me are I just think the safest place.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, let's touch this last game. We'll build a few lineups and get out of here. Maybe catch the end of this Texas-Ohio State game.
It's getting good here again.
Again, Puka is the guy that I'm just okay.
Hard up.
We said, Kevin, Justin Jefferson, I would love to play him, but it's just hard for me to justify when I can get Puka for $600 cheaper. That's the issue. Or would you try to play both, you think?
But it's Justin fucking Jefferson.
And it is a team that has the most passing yards on the outside versus Justin freaking Jefferson. And per PFF, he has the number one, right, Joe? Wide receiver corner matchup, I believe.
Yeah, they're 1-2. It's Jefferson.
Yeah.
Okay. Unsurprising.
I can't imagine not playing just Planet Earth's best wide receiver. If you're gonna go fight aliens and you're gonna do that with the best wide receiver on the planet, it's Justin Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
I can't. That's the argument I will use forever with Justin Jefferson. until that dude is, the third wide receiver for the Detroit Lions dynasty in 2034.
Do you feel comfortable playing Darnold or Stafford? Because I think that's a way that you could play both Puka and Jefferson is by spending down either playing Stafford or Darnold instead of, say, Daniels or, Mayfield or.
Yeah, I don't feel nearly as confident as I do just because I feel really great about Baker and Daniels.
Right.
But I do feel like this is where I would take that shot of going with someone else. Because otherwise I'm probably spending up and I'm getting a Lamar or Josh. So if I'm going lower, I think this is where you take that shot.
The Stafford's even cheaper than my boy Herbert. That's the main reason I like him is that price point.
Stafford threw 4 touchdowns in that first matchup between these two. And unlike a lot of the other 2 NFC matchups, that was a midseason game. That wasn't week 1. And it's like.
And the Vikings have been solid versus the run all year. Like, that's a legit great run defense. I think Kyron's going to have a tough time.
And also running. Minnesota on the other end has really been struggling to run the ball.
Uh-huh.
So the argument that I would make as someone who's picking the Rams to win is that, like, I don't totally believe in Sam Darnold. But if you're going the opposite direction, 100%, I expect if they win this game, I expect it to be a really good game for Sam Darnold. So
yeah, that's where I see public sentiment is obviously the last thing you saw from Sam Darnold is Darnold.
Like, I remember this. I've seen this before. Let's go back.
So that's going to drive down ownership. Like, that's going to drive 100%. That down exponentially.
Yeah.
He and the entire Vikings offense, honestly, outside of Aaron Jones, is like the flop lag, like glaring bright lights. This is, you got to play Darnold, Jefferson, Addison. Like, if they're going to do it in a week, it's going to be this week.
In Arizona, right? Which I think people are underestimating. For Darnold to make his first playoff start and to be in a neutral field with
still indoors.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
indoors.
I think that's a huge advantage for Minnesota. I know LA's not the biggest home crowd, but it is going to be a lot easier. Like, there's going to be 30, 40,000 LA fans there. I don't believe that at all.
God, we're going to be fucked when it's like 49-7 Rams because it's going to be like the Saints with Hurricane Katrina all over again.
Win one for the Gipper type deal. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. Oh,
yeah. That is the other reason I'm picking the Rams. Like, there's zero chance I'm picking against them.
So Kupp and Robinson. Robinson got a DUI. Kupp is in, you made the point that he may be dust, right? Like, and he followed that up by having yet another really bad game. But I do, question Vikings are dead last versus number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. Robinson caught 2 passes for 2 touchdowns in the first matchup. Like, Robinson's a guy I don't mind taking a dart on, especially if you're going to play Stafford, Puka, throw Robinson in there, and then you can definitely get Jefferson and maybe even fit in like a Bucky and one other, semi-expensive guy.
By the way, I just wanted to throw this up there. Charlene, thanks for the invite, by the way, from Chile.
Yeah, thanks, Charlene. What the hell?
I mean, what are we doing here?
What are you doing in Chile for the New Year? Well, I guess it's 10 days past. She's been having a real long vacation at that point. If it was for the New Year.
Yeah,
I want to be Charlene when I grow up. I just want to say that. I'm pretty jealous right now, but that's amazing that you're in Chile. Even though all that food, isn't Chile food pretty spicy or no? Am I getting that mixed up?
You need a refined palate.
Yeah,
I would think so.
That.
I would be struggling.
I mean, hey, if you're going to name your country after it.
Touche, Joe Matz. That's why we call you Joe the Brain. Any other places you guys want to talk before we build a few lineups and get out of here?
I mean, again,
Hubby's family. Hello. Visiting for a couple. I do want to be Charlene when I grow up. It's not too late to invite us. We'll come meet you, Charlene. If you're going to be for a few
We're only
weeks.
A Spirit Airline flight away.
That's right. If we've got room and board, the flight's nothing, right? That's the main thing.
We got to fly over our new acquisition.
We haven't flown international in a while, Joe.
And then we end up in that like Uruguayan rugby team where we just crash in the Andes. And
how about that? She said the food is bland but delicious. That is right up my alley.
Bland but delicious. What is this, Ireland? What's going on here?
Hello.
I'm Irish. I can say it.
I'm not even try to pronounce that.
TJ Hawkinson, I think, is a little interesting too, considering.
Now, wait a minute. You poo-pooed on me 2 days ago, Joe, when I brought him up.
I went back and forth on it, and I think it's an interesting one where I think maybe you can get some differentiation because I'm guessing.
Did you like what I said about with all the blitzing, and we know the Rams are going to probably bring pressure that they're going to be telling Donald, you got to get rid of the ball quicker, bro.
Yeah, and it's not that he hasn't seen the ball at all. It's just that there hasn't been scores to go.
0 touchdowns. I said if he scored 2 or 3, you'd be looking at him totally different with what he's done in his 10 games.
But yeah, I mean the Rams are not good at cover, or not the Rams.
Being kind.
Yeah, the Rams are not good at covering tight ends. They're awful. And he is a good player. Obviously, the further he gets away from the injury, again, I'm all in on drafting him next year.
Yeah,
but the further he gets away, the better. This is, yardage allowed to tight ends. Only Tampa Bay is worse than the Rams in this playoff field, or at least in this
Kansas City.
I was going to say, I was like, wait, I think Kansas City was bad. I didn't.
They're literally, I think, though, the top 3 in the NFL, which is wild.
They're all quite bad. So again, Ertz, if you don't want to go with the Ravens, because I'm all in with you on the Ravens. I love the tight ends this week. But if you want to go somewhere else, again, for me, it's Ertz Hawkinson. That's unless you're going crazy and going in on a Strange or no Stone. That's right. If you're going with Stone on the Chargers.
I tried to say it without laughing. I couldn't get Tyler Higbee out of my mouth before I started laughing.
No, yeah. We've been down that road over the last couple of years.
On the Fantasy Six Pack show, and he just went, "Nah, I'm not interested."
No,
that's literally what he said.
No.
For Joe to say that, that's pretty blunt, man.
Yeah, you couldn't get me on that play if you paid me.
We'll come to Chile, but we're not going to play.
That's right.
Well, yeah, put that on a T-shirt. We'll go to Chile, but we won't play Tyler Higbee.
Let's build some lineups, boys.
Let's do it. All right, let's get the full slate here.
Do we want to start with the Washington Tampa extravaganza, or do we want to build up to that?
I mean, might as well. We're already here.
Let's do that one first.
So I think Daniel's 7.3 points per game with his legs. You run it back with Ertz Eckler. You got to throw McMillan, Bucky in there, and then we still have some flexibility to do some stuff. I mean, from there, I'm okay with kind of whatever you guys want to do.
So we got 5,300.
Well, the defense is going to get you. If we pick one of the cheapest defense, where it's going to beat us up to about $6K. And
I'd rather play. I'd rather play Texans out of all these teams. Honestly,
yeah.
I think if we're going to play any side. I know we just talked about how we don't want to play anybody in that, but like the defense might be. I mean, look what the Texans did. Last year? Didn't they have 2 defensive touchdowns?
Joe Matt's called it too.
That was my best play of the whole season, probably.
Yeah. He said that.
Run that shit back at home.
Let's do it.
Do we want to play Deontay Johnson, and that frees us up to do whatever?
I was going to say we definitely want to make sure we have room to get either Puka or Jefferson.
That's what I'm saying. 3,500. We can get pretty frisky with those other 2 guys.
I put both in. What is 20? What could 2,800 get us? Josh Oliver?
Probably Tyler Higbee.
I mean,
Luke Musgrave. He's coming back, baby. This is it.
He played last week, unfortunately, or I would be like maybe.
What you don't want Devin? You don't want to get.
You could spin down the Texans and do it, Kev. If that's what you want to do, you just unfortunately lose your defense. You go down to the Broncos. You say fuck it, we're just gonna run the Steelers. You just run the cheapest defense you can find.
The Allen will run the wing T and they'll score like 14 points in a win.
I love it.
They don't want to give the Ravens.
Your optimism is amazing, Kev.
Boom, Tylan Wallace.
Boom. Yeah. No, seriously. Is he that? What was his price?
3,100.
Yeah, do it.
Unless you find you can find. Oh, okay. Eckler. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm good with him or Chark. Because Chark ran the 3rd most routes of the wide receivers last week. That leads me to believe that they're because we know Darius Davis is like a gadgety type. I don't think he's not a route runner. He's not.
I'm glad you told me that, because I really do want that 3rd piece, because Herbert will throw it to his, that 3rd option. You've seen Palmer, Davis, all these guys have decent games, and Shark, it would just make so much sense that everybody's in on Ladden Johnson, and Shark ends up having 2 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown.
Even if we get 8 points out of DJ Chark,
Did you get 6 out of a guy that's 3,100 in a cash lineup? I'm thrilled because it allowed me to play Puka and Jefferson.
Right.
And that's the real point of it, right?
That's the reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
I like it. I really do.
Right.
I do too.
I'm vibing.
All right. Do we want to do an Allen or Lamar quarterback lineup? Because that would probably be the next place I would go.
What about the Vikings triple stack?
Yes, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Do it.
Darnold, Addison, Jefferson.
Oh, you don't want to do Darnold, Jefferson, Hawkinson, save a little money?
Could go either way there.
I think you find cheap enough tight ends.
You're right. Actually, you're right. Again, dead last versus outside receivers. Both Addison and Jefferson are two of the most dangerous wide receivers in football on the outside. So I think that's
Addison's going to be like a 4th round pick next year, dude.
He should be.
Addison's good.
Especially with Darnold, coming
He won
back.
the fucking bullet in the cough. What more do you want?
Can we get Deontay into one of these lineups? Because I really do like him this week at 3,500. And it'll give you
him in, well, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, just get me to shut up. Yes, either that or Vele. We can go Vele if you want to. He's 41.
I'm just kidding. Kind of kidding.
Fuck you, Kev.
James Cook is good leverage off of Josh Allen.
I like Cook a lot this week, man.
He's really the last guy I feel confident in once you go under 7,000. Like, obviously, I like the Eckler play, but like just true confidence.
Well, I was going to say again, I like throwing Eckler again at 4,800. And Brian Robinson's last 4 games, 3.2 yards per carry on 46 attempts. Eckler averaged almost 4.8 yards per carry on the season. I think there's a world where Eckler not only gets you the pass catching upside, but he ends up getting like more rush attempts if Robinson comes out and is really bad. Because we saw that early in the season where they would go to kind of the hot hand.
That's true. And the Bucs are also the biggest pass funnel defense among playoff teams, where that's how you beat them. And if I'm trying to pass more,
unless you want to go Ty Johnson, that would be the only other deal because he's 42 or 1. That I'd be okay.
Oh, I am supremely confident in Eckler getting much more.
Okay, I'm good with
real estate than Ty Johnson.
I like the Eckler play.
Sweet.
My thought. We could probably
likely. You'd have 8,200 left, and you can go.
Well, I was going to say, Ertz and McMillan like to do the Tampa.
Does 82 even do anything? Because Saquon's over that, and we already
85. But you could again go down on your defense.
Oh, you could
do Ertz Bucky. Could do Ertz Bucky.
Yeah.
Absolutely, always.
Yeah, I actually really like. Hold on. I gotta take a picture of that one.
I'm pretty into this.
Hold on.
You could even. What are the other defense options? Because you still have $300 left.
I don't think you can go anywhere we really like. Because it's Rams, I believe.
Vikings or Rams.
Yeah.
I don't like.
Yeah.
So what sucks is that as much as shit as I talked about those bottom teams, I like their defenses better than starting at the Commanders through the Bucs. I think those are the games.
The 4 bottom defenses are all better defenses, than Commanders, Rams.
I just also
the Vikings are an actual good defense. They're just a weird one because they're bad. They're good for fantasy, but they're also a good defense. It's kind of a bizarre one.
I feel like Texans and Broncos, just based on salary, are going to be the 2 highest owned.
No one's. See, I don't hate the Packers play because I'm with you on the Packers not scoring a lot of points. I don't think Green Bay's or the Eagles score a lot of points either. Like, do you know the last time the Packers gave up like a 40-yard play this season?
Was to Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley? Because he had 3 touchdowns and like 160 yards week 1.
The A.J. Brown 67-yard touchdown.
Oh, that's right. So it wasn't that game, yeah.
Yeah. So like that defense contains stuff, and that's why I still like Saquon because I think you pound and ground it. But like,
as a Packer fan, I'm sorry, I'm so conditioned to giving up the big plays, but that's only because Rasul Douglas isn't on the team anymore.
Yeah, he's gone. You have an actual competent defensive coordinator, which is like that's got to feel weird. So,
well, we also thought Mike Pettin was good too.
You want to build one with Baker?
I kind of did too. But yeah, I think if the Eagles
say
win,
you want to build a lineup with Baker,
like
SQB
13 or something.
Yeah,
because he's a little bit cheaper than Daniels. I kind of like Baker maybe that's a game where we come back with McLaurin. Still do the McMillan, Bucky with him.
Yeah,
come back with McLaurin. If we want to do Ertz, if we want to do Zacchaeus, I'm good with either of those. Or we can just just play, one of the two. Just play McLaurin and we can, go elsewhere. I kind of do want to have at least one lineup with like Ty Johnson in there. And that might be the one
Just
where we
to
can
see
get
what
Barkley.
you can do with it.
Well, I'm saying then we could definitely play Barkley for sure. It's the other back by doing that, and maybe still get Jefferson or Puka in there.
I mean, maybe even more so if we go from McLaurin to Zacchaeus and then put in like Ertz, because then that would also free up money.
If you play Zacchaeus, you could play Likely, who I really like this week. He's 32 or 4.
32, right? That's true too.
Yeah.
What you could do also, and I'm trying to see what our.
Well, you really like Bateman. I don't mind playing that either.
I was actually going to throw Dontavian Wicks and Devonta Smith in there.
Hey, yeah, do it. No, I like that. I do like that.
As like they're like, I find it very difficult that the field will get on a single correlation like that.
I completely agree. And both of them, I do really like their prices. I didn't know Wicks was 4,500 because wasn't he up to like almost 5K just a few weeks ago?
Oh,
I don't know. I think he was like 50. Oh, let me pull it up because I know that game he had the 2 touchdowns. So that was
hung around that high 4, low 5 range, I think, for a while.
I didn't even really think about him, but I just assumed he was like 5K, especially with Watson.
That's with Watson out. I get why you'd be saying that. So last week, nothing against Chicago, Minnesota.
Why doesn't I show a salary? Don't normally do that.
Oh, it was at the edge there. You could like.
Oh, there we go.
Stupid edges.
Yeah, because that was like after he had that 2 touchdown game.
So yeah, basically the first 3 months of the season he was 5K. Then they were like, "Oh, he can't catch the ball anymore."
Yeah,
drop down.
Oh, he was like 6th in the league in drops. Okay.
But he is always open because
he could have played for UGA with those kind of hands.
He'd be the perfect receiver. Well, isn't it like the ESPN? They have that like receiver analytics thing where his like open rating is a 99 out of 99.
Well, what about the ass score that Fantasy Points does or whatever? That gimmick is it's. I hated it at first, and now I chuckle because they're always talking about people's ass scores.
Dontavian Wicks has the 3rd highest open score of any wide receiver this season, only behind AJ Brown and Malik Neighbors. So Dontavian Wicks can do literally everything as a wide receiver,
except for
catching the ball.
Pretty important right there.
By the way, catch score 0, like not a bit.
Were you serious?
No, I'm dead. Trust me, if I could whitewash this and expunge it from the record.
How do they determine that?
0.
Like, can you seriously explain that to me?
That's all the ESPN analytics and stuff like that.
All right, wait,
tracking
Keith,
on the shoulder.
I want you to try to guess the 2 other guys who have 0s.
Yeah,
both of them are in the playoffs. Only
one of them is like a dead giveaway, and the other one is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I am a little.
Pickens, one of them.
No. He's like 90s, I think.
I thought he had a bunch of drops lately, though.
Lately, but over the course of the season, I think he's been okay.
AFC or NFC?
Both AFC.
Yeah.
Give me are they playing this week?
One of them is, one of them is not. So that narrows one of them down.
There's a big hint. Let's go with it's not Worthy, right?
It is.
That's the one. I can't believe you got that one before the other one.
Well, we narrowed it down by one of us not playing this week.
True, but still.
The other one definitely feels more obvious.
8 wide receivers.
Overall.
Huh.
Who is like public enemy number 1 for Twitter as far as wide receivers?
Why am I blanking? Oh, Quentin Johnson.
Yeah, there it is.
And somehow, I'm trying to think. Jameson Williams is like 7th worst. MVS, that tracks.
Devontae Adams and Zay Flowers are way down here.
I don't understand how Jameson's there because it seems like every game he gets like 6 targets and he has 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Well, because he dropped the other 2.
And the CeeDee Lamb is like the 5th worst as well, but that feels like an on-target percentage kind of thing rather than like.
So can you explain to me, like, do you understand how they come up with a 0 though, Kev, or is that just like some weird formula that they have?
Well, it's like everything that's because they have the tracking stuff, especially for like the open. They can track everything with like what they put in the shoulder pads, but it's like they go through every play and determine whether it's like they should have caught that based on like similar situations by like every wide receiver in the past. I think it's like since like 2010 or something like that.
And their numbers love AJ Brown.
Yeah. I mean, AJ Brown's a fucking grown ass man.
Oh yeah, no, he was my favorite guy in that draft class, and that's
you've been on him from the get go. I gotta give you that.
Imagine letting that guy go to like 112 in a rookie draft just because he went to the Titans.
Wasn't that the one where the Patriots they took the slow ASU guy ahead of him?
N'Keal Harry, yeah,
N'Keal Harry.
That was such a bad wide receiver class. Like he was the top, wasn't he the top wide receiver drafted in that?
No, there was somebody decent ahead of him. I mean, and then DK went later too, but
that was the 2019 class.
DK wants to be fucking.
I think he might have been
AJ Brown. Let's finish up 18? This lineup, then I want to watch the rest of this game.
That's true. This game's getting close.
All right.
So what do we have left? Was that say 5,700?
5,700 for running back, tight end, defense, and
let's do
our tried and true at least for now.
The Texans. So what does that give us? 7,200.
Yeah.
Let's go. Definitely. It's a no brainer for me. I think you can get Puka and no, you're just gonna miss it. I was gonna say I thought you'd get Puka and Bucky, but you can't.
You get Saquon. Let me see if you get Saquon in there. Just I know it's like.
Was that lame? Was that 5K?
That doesn't do much for us wide receiver wise.
Why don't we go double Bills backs?
Cook and
and
then that gets you to let's see 77. You can still Puka.
Hey.
Oh, he
had tight end.
Tight end.
We fucked that up real bad. So go back to put Barkley in there, and we can actually upgrade from what's his name? Shit.
Who?
What we got there?
Oh
wow! Yeah, Johnson. Like we can upgrade Johnson. I was gonna play him, but I didn't know we were gonna have this kind of cash left.
We got Buka bucks.
Let's throw Eckler in there. What do you got? That'd still be 5,200. Don't do that. That's too much money. Sorry, I'm forgetting what his tight end.
What's our tight end max? 47. So
let's go Ertz. Because we didn't. Oh, we did play Eckler. Yeah, take out Eckler. Put Ertz in there. What we have left?
Oh, so you want another commander?
I just want to see what it is.
Yeah.
58.
Oh, that's Brian Robinson.
No, don't want it that way. Put Cook in there, and then what tight end can we play? We can play Likely, right?
I think so.
No, I was talking about playing Barkley, Cook, I think, and Likely. I think we could do.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that one too. And that's
I think I like that Darnold. I think I like the Darnold Addison Jefferson one, honestly.
I think that one would be pretty.
I think that was my
too,
favorite,
man.
but I don't. This one's an interesting pivot with the Wicks Smith.
This is a lot of under-owned because I don't think Saquon Barkley feels like he should be like chalk, like.
But he's not. When you told me the Bucky, that's what I'm saying. I'm pivoting. Like, that's one of the big things I'm doing in some of these cash lineups. I mean, who's a safer play than him? I know you got to bite the bullet. You definitely can't play like Puka and Jefferson together. But you can play Barkley and still get like McMillan, Bucky, like probably Puka or Jefferson. Like, you can figure it out where you still got like 4 studs. And especially if Barkley's low on, those are always the weeks. It was just like CMC last year. Anytime CMC was relatively low owned, sign me up. I didn't care if he's a $9,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all the lineups you made are really good.
Well, guys, this is
all winners.
Super fun. I always enjoy hanging out with these guys. One of my favorite things was I told these guys that I was going to ask them a question on the spot because they're 2 smart guys. And Kev goes, "You consider me smart?" And I was like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I do. If you're not smart, I don't know what the hell I am." So
well, that makes one of us. So
well, only one of us has the nickname the Brain. That's all I'm going to say. So
that's true. Ain't me.
We will be back next week. You guys can't get rid of us. You want to? We're just going to be here talking DFS. We will be covering.
And we're global now because we're reaching Chile.
We're going to be in Chile. Yeah, we're going to be doing the show with Charlene. It's going to be a blast. She's been a long time listener, first time caller, or first time co-host in Chile, live on location.
Yeah.
Good things are coming, man. I can't wait to see Chile, but I've heard it's beautiful this time of year. So we'll see you guys soon. Good luck in your best balls.